Hello, fellow spiritual travelers. This is Tara coming to you from the very historic Morris House Hotel, built in 1787. Also infamously haunted Morris House Hotel. We're up on the third floor, and that's actually where all of the paranormal sightings have occurred. So it's a very fitting setting to be talking about ancestral work, as is kind of the entire city of Philadelphia. I always call it a real spirit soup here. It's so history rich. But this is where generations of my father's side of the family lived and died for hundreds of years. And so today I went out to the family plot to do some crystal grid work, actually. If you read my post earlier this week on protection in ancestral work, very, very important topic. If you didn't read it, I'd highly recommend it, unless you already have very strong protective practices. But if you read it, then you saw the story about how in April we discovered that on the other side of the cemetery from where my family is buried the man who was considered America's first mass murderer, and some call him America's most prolific serial killer, who was hung in 1896. And we sensed really, really strong negative energy over there, very extreme. And so ever since, I've had a little bit of concern about that negative energy running rampant all around my family members and ancestors. And I received the message a couple months ago that I needed to come down and do a protective crystal grid around the family plot. So that's what we did earlier today. So if you look here, these are the crystals that I've been preparing. Actually, we already put them in the ground. These are some additional ones, but this is my usual kind of charging setup. I charge the crystals for today's grid for about a month or so, one full moon cycle and then some. In there was black tourmaline, shungite, Apache tear. That's what's in the grid. And here I have two wands that I use for grid work. This is an eagle eye quartz wand, and this is a black onyx wand, and I used the onyx wand since we were doing a protection grid. So the first thing I did was all of my protective and cleansing practices. I smudged myself in the space. This is Auntie Baba's liquid smudge from Sandy Crow, which I love. It smells delicious in addition to being very effective. The Kate's Magic Purification and Protection Spray that I talked about all of this in my post earlier this week, so you can see it all in black and white there as well. Rose water, I always like to raise the vibration and freshen the energy with rose water. And this is a little cottage industry out of Salem, Massachusetts, Moon Hollow, and I've been using their Witch's Moon spray for about the past year anytime I do any magical working, and I love it. It feels really good. So I made sure to use that today as well. I also, to follow up on my post about protection, I had my crystal fluorite skull with me the whole time. Fluorite absorbs negative energy. I both had the black tourmaline that was in the grid. I also have a black tourmaline pendulum that I use when I do ancestral work, and that was on my person the entire time. And I also was wearing a very large piece of labradorite and had 2 2 additional pieces of labradorite on my person. I always feel like more is more when it comes to protection. And I had a bag of pink Himalayan salt with me. I will discard this pink Himalayan salt tonight because anything that I was around today, it absorbed, and I don't want to continue to carry that around with me. I will also cleanse all of these crystals, but particularly the fluorite tonight before I go and do any other cemetery work tomorrow. Absolutely. Fluorite should be cleansed after every working. So, without further ado, this is the grid that we actually laid today. So this is the headstone. The 4 anchor points were black tourmaline, raw black tourmaline. In between the anchor points was Apache tear, which is very, very good for protection from psychic attacks, energy vampires. And then down the center was shungite. This little loopy-loop here, I laid a shungite pendant, which you see right here. I laid the shungite pendant over it as we were doing all of our preparations and our blessings and cleansing the space. And then after all of the other crystals were buried, the shungite pendant stays with me. And this is my long distance connection to this grid. So even though there really shouldn't be a lot of concern about cleansing these crystals because they're buried in the ground, and that's actually a very effective way to cleanse crystals, if I feel like they need extra cleansing, this is my my 2 cans and a piece of string between me and Vermont and this grid here in Philadelphia. If I feel like it needs boosting or charging or cleansing, here's my connection point. So without further ado, here is the video of us actually laying the grid. And it was incredibly windy, and there were cemetery grounds workers digging a grave with very loud equipment near us. So hopefully you'll be able to hear over that. I think it worked out okay. But you have to adapt to your circumstances. So I hope this is useful to everyone. Thank you. Hi, this is Tara, and we're here at my family plot just outside Philadelphia. These are all of the tools I've been getting ready for today's working. And this is Ancestralite. I'm going to be talking a lot about this soon. But I've been using Ancestralite in all of my ancestral healing work lately. I'm finding it to be an incredibly powerful tool. I've been using this angel blend to anoint the Ancestralite, but I'll be talking a lot more about that soon. So I've already pre-dug the holes for the crystal grid, the protective crystal grid that we're going to be placing today. And I've set the stones. And this is the shungite pendant that's going to be my distance kind of anchor connection point between the grid and myself and Vermont. And the grid will cover this whole space. It will cover the entire family plot. So first we're going to start with the 4 anchors, which are all black tourmaline. And I'm anointing all the black tourmaline and shungite with a protective blend that I made myself, a combination of frankincense, geranium, and a little cedar wood. Then I anoint the Apache tear with Kate's Magic Uncrossing oil. So we had a little technical difficulty. I went around and anointed each one. The last portion and of then connecting the grid, buried them. That video didn't come out. So I'm just going to explain to you what I did at the end. I took the black onyx wand and connected all of the crystals in the grid energetically together, activated it, going around like this, then straight down the center. So now it's a unified energetic force field around the family plot. Then to close, I have certain closing prayers and blessings that I say. I also, this time, because of the protective nature of what we were trying to do here, I took a yarrow hydrosol and sprayed copiously around the perimeter with it to create that membrane, that barrier, energetic barrier. I have been recently using neroli hydrosol for any ancestral working where I feel like there was a lot of trauma, and I know that in this particular family line there was a lot of trauma and pain. So I used this as well. And then I closed with just the usual smudge and rose water, and gave a final offering. This is a special blend of rose water and neroli and a couple other things that was a specific offering to my lost grandmother, who I've been writing about a lot lately. I was told that this is what she really wanted, and this is what she would really like, that rose water was her favorite. So after that blessing of rose water for her, the grid was set and the working was done, and I hope that this has been helpful for you. Thanks for watching.